A couple earns $133,000 a year, they have solid careers, college degrees, the American dream, yet they are drowning in debt and living paycheck to paycheck. In the 1970s, a single income could buy a home and provide financial safety. Today, even two incomes cannot guarantee security. Elizabeth Warren's landmark research found that families like this are actually more likely to file for bankruptcy than their single-earner parents. Why did everything change, and where does all that money go? Every 2 weeks, the direct deposits hit their bank account. $133,000 a year between them. On paper, they are in the top quarter of American households. He is a project manager at a tech firm. She is a school counselor. Both have degrees. Their friends say they are lucky, solid jobs, health insurance, a 3-bedroom house in a decent district. But the spreadsheet on their kitchen counter tells a different story. After the mortgage, daycare, student loans, and health premiums, less than $300 is left before the next payday. Groceries go on the credit card. A blown tire or a dental bill means another swipe. They skip dinners out, buy store-brand cereal, and still cannot save for summer camp or a family trip. When the car needs repairs, they juggle which bill can wait. Their emergency fund is just a line of credit, always one crisis away from being maxed out. They did everything right: college, careers, a starter home instead of a McMansion. But the math never adds up. Each month ends with a knot in the stomach and a silent question: how can two incomes feel like barely enough? For millions of families like theirs, the promise of financial security is out of reach, even as the paychecks keep coming. In 1970, a single income could support an entire family. The median household brought in $10,000 a year. A typical mortgage payment, including taxes and insurance, claimed only a quarter of that income, around 25%. That left enough for groceries, medical bills, and even the occasional family vacation. The non-working parent was not just a tradition, they were a built-in safety net. If the main earner lost a job or got sick, the other could step in, pick up part-time work, or manage the household budget to weather a setback. This margin, this breathing room, meant that a single crisis rarely meant disaster. By the early 2000s, that cushion had vanished for most families. Elizabeth Warren, then a Harvard bankruptcy professor, studied more than 2,000 households and uncovered a startling trend. Dual-income parents, once thought to be safer, were actually more likely to declare bankruptcy than their single-income peers. The numbers did not add up the way people expected. Families were not spending more on luxuries. Adjusted for inflation, they spent less on food, clothing, and appliances than their parents did. Instead, fixed costs like housing, healthcare, and education swallowed both paychecks. The stay-at-home parent, the old backup plan, had been traded for a second income, but the risk had not disappeared. It had shifted, leaving families more exposed to financial shocks than ever before. Housing, healthcare, college, and childcare now shape the financial reality for families, swallowing up paychecks before they even reach the bank. The median price of a home has more than doubled since 1970, adjusted for inflation. Back then, a typical house cost the equivalent of $200,000 in today's dollars. Now the same house demands over $400,000. That single change alone means the mortgage, taxes, and insurance devour a much larger share of income, leaving less for everything else. Healthcare has followed a similar path. In 1970, a family's share of medical spending was a fraction of what it is today. Per capita healthcare costs have soared by more than 600%, rising from just under $3,000 a year in today's dollars to nearly $14,000. Premiums, deductibles, and out-of-pocket expenses climb each year, with no sign of relief. Even families with employer coverage face bills that would have seemed unthinkable to their parents. College presents another hurdle. Tuition and fees at public universities have jumped by over 1,000% since 1970, and by 1,200% if measured from 1980. A 4-year degree that once cost a few $1,000s now carries a sticker price of $40,000 or more at public schools, and double or triple that at private colleges. Student loans fill the gap, but the debt lingers for decades, often overlapping with the next generation's bills. Childcare, once handled at home, is now a major fixed cost for dual-income families. The average price ranges from $11,000 to $30,000 per child each year, an expense that barely existed for single-income households in the past. These four essentials, home, health, education and care, now claim the lion's share of every dollar, leaving little room for error and making the promise of financial security feel out of reach. A second paycheck looks like the answer. On paper, a salary of $50,000 should change everything. But the reality unfolds line by line. First, taxes take the biggest bite. At this income level, federal and state taxes claim nearly $18,000. The higher tax bracket punishes the second earner, not just in percentage, but by pushing the entire household into a steeper climb. What is left after taxes seems workable until the next deduction hits. Childcare, now essential for two working parents, averages $15,000 per year for just one child. That is not for extras or enrichment, just the basic cost of safe care while both parents are at work. Commuting comes next. 2 jobs mean 2 cars, more gas, parking, insurance, and another $8,000 gone. These are not luxuries, but non-negotiables in most American suburbs. Then come the hidden costs of exhaustion. When every adult in the house is working full-time, there is no one left to cook, clean, or run errands. Takeout replaces homemade meals, cleaning services fill the gaps, and every shortcut comes with a price tag. Add it up, and these exhaustion expenses swallow another $7,000 a year. What began as a $50,000 boost to the family budget is now barely a ripple. After all the deductions, taxes, childcare, commuting, and the cost of time itself, the net gain is about $2,000 a year. That is less than $40 a week, or roughly $1 for every hour spent away from home. The promise of a second income dissolves under the weight of its own costs, leaving families wondering where all the money went. Banks don't look at what is left after bills, they look at the total paychecks coming in. Mortgage lenders approve families based on their combined gross income, not on what actually makes it to the end of the month. For a couple earning $133,000, this means qualifying for a much larger loan than either could afford alone. But that higher ceiling is not a gift, it is a requirement. In today's market, 60% of married couples with children rely on 2 incomes just to meet the minimum for a mortgage. As more families bring 2 salaries to the table, the price of entry rises for everyone. The bidding war for homes in good school districts turns dual incomes into the new baseline, not a bonus. The family's entire financial future becomes tied to both jobs, with no room for setbacks. One lost paycheck and the whole system starts to crack. A different approach starts by flipping the household budget upside down. Instead of stretching to afford a home on 2 paychecks, some families set their fixed costs, mortgage, rent, and utilities so they fit on just 1 income. The second paycheck is not earmarked for everyday bills. It goes directly to savings, investments, and building an emergency fund. This often means living in a slightly smaller house, driving an older car, or skipping the latest upgrades. But the trade-off is flexibility. If one parent loses a job or needs to step back, the family's core expenses are already covered. Every dollar from the second income becomes a buffer, not a necessity. Over time, this strategy restores the margin that used to come built into the system. It lets families reclaim breathing room and build real security in a world where the old safety nets have disappeared. Today, a dual income is no longer a guarantee of safety. It is often just the price of admission. As fixed costs outpace earnings, financial fragility becomes the new normal for millions. The real question is, how long can a system run on empty? Let me know your thoughts below.